Yeah, I have no idea whether I got the start of the show right today. You just never know. Damian Dunn, hello.
Good morning.
Damon, I want to start the show with something so graphic. But you remember when you were a teen and I was a teen and other people were teens, and based on how the changes you're going through in your body, your skin would get oily and certain conditions and blemishes would appear on your face. Do you remember this time?
All too well.
Well, I'm going through a renaissance because I have said blemish on the bridge of my nose where my glasses sit, and it is so incredibly painful that I have considered severing the head at the shoulders. Any thoughts?
I think this might be a time for a crossover episode with Dr. Pimple Popper.
You know, the whole concept of that show gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Really?
Like, I can't I'm so disgusted by the name of the show, by the concept of the show, the visuals of the show. I couldn't possibly get down like that.
Anybody else in your family potentially go through that or be interested in that sort of programming?
My daughter likes it, and I think my mother watches it. They watch it together, and which just seems like a real bonding experience for a generation jump. Dame, how was your week?
It was rough. Had a little bit of illness running through the household,
Yes.
the northern household, but seemed to be most of us seem to be getting past it. Others are just beginning the process, so it's going to be a great weekend in our house.
Dame, so I'm excited. This weekend is the first official game. Hello, Mike. Good to be with you. The first official game of my daughter's soccer season. She's U13, as they call it, everyone under 13. I'm an assistant coach, or as my daughter calls me, an assistant to the coach, in the spirit of the office.
Yeah.
And I've introduced game analytics to the program this year. I have an app on my iPad, which I could show you if I really wanted to. In fact, I might show you. It allows you to have a starting lineup. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this on the live stream right now. Allows you to have a starting lineup here. I'm going to go full screen. And you can move people in and out of the lineup on the screen. And you can press play, and it keeps track of playing time. And it keeps statistics. So if there's a score, I can click on it. I can say Carolyn scored, Molly assisted, and I can add it. And then at the end of the season, all the stats line up. This again splits the minutes equally amongst the ladies. And I can provide real-time analytics to the coach on the sideline. And I'm very, very excited about this. And Sarah, Mrs. Planner, I should say, thinks I'm insane.
Well, there's nothing like giving your parents concrete evidence for them to fire insults at you.
Let's just say that's why I'm doing it. No, it's not why I'm doing it. We've got a good set of parents. Anyway, Dame, we have a financial radio show, it turns out.
Oh.
Okay, so here's the topics this week. I want to talk about that article I sent over this week about people not taking distributions from their retirement accounts.
Okay.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be the I don't buy it guy.
Yeah, that seemed a little unbelievable to me. I mean, I'd love to see what their sample was, the demographics of their sample, but I'm really skeptical of that.
We're also going to do that article I think you put in the system about Americans spending more, around $700 more a month, and I want to just walk through that because there's some sort of obvious elements to that. And I was going to do this when Phil Schumann joined us, but we might do the colleges are struggling piece.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Of course, the Boaman news. Okay. Well, good. Let me get the clock started here. Get ready for the show. Last week, by the way. So the podcast, I think, sounded, I believe, perfectly fine. I believe. Maybe it didn't. But when it went to radio, there was like this weird staticky thing on our signal last week when I edited it and put it up for the radio stations to download and play over the air. And I thought maybe my ears just hearing it because I'm sensitive to this. And then Mrs. Planner and I were listening to the show air live on our flagship station, 93 WIBC. She turns to me and she goes, "What's that static?" And I said, "You've just ruined my life."
So I'd like to note that we didn't do anything to try and track that down or prevent that from happening again this week. So maybe your week's ruined again.
I would like to put a bow on the Dikembe Mutombo story from a couple of
Yes.
weeks ago. So a couple elements to this. First off, Ted Dunn, just got a Dikembe Mutombo throwback jersey, which is incredibly awesome. And
The
so
good one.
a really good one. So I want to show it on the there. There he is with the Dikembe Mutombo throwback jersey. I get very excited. Number two, and this is what people may not realize: Dikembe Mutombo's son Ryan Mutombo, naturally, signed to play at Georgetown next year. He just signed this year. He's the 16th rated center in all of high school basketball. And Dame, what Mrs. Planner and I figured out this morning is the classic story I tell of Dikembe Mutombo of seeing him with his family at a resort, slapping a roll out of his son's hand and saying, "Noro." That's a true story. The boy he slapped the roll out of, Ryan Mutombo.
It all comes back.
It all is. I mean, I might be the only person enamored with this whole thing, but I think it's great.
I think you need to get tickets to a Georgetown game and sometime just yell at no roll and see if it gives a flashback.
Let's start the show. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And here's what we'll do. We're not going to sell you stuff. Oh, by the way, Damian Dunn joins me on the program. He's the Vice President of Advice at Your Moneyline and Hey Money. Dame, hello.
Hello.
One of the things that drove me crazy for years when you turn on financial radio shows is that the answer ends up being call me on Monday. I don't like that. I don't like the idea that we're not going to give you any really good insight because you're going to have to call us on Monday. So our show is just about answering your questions while we're here. You don't have to call us on a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to have us sell you things because that's not what we do. I don't know why I decided to throw everyone else under the bus right now. Dame, here's what's on the show this week. We are going to talk about a new study that came out suggesting that most retirees aren't tapping their nest eggs before their required withdrawals. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why it does not pass my personal sniff test. We're also going to discuss Americans spending more than they did in 2020. Really? That one does pass the sniff test and is barely worth a mention, but we're going to go through that. And of course, what we all knew was coming. Colleges are struggling, and there's predictions that several colleges will be going out of business, which is a strange concept in the next couple of years. So, Dame, let's get started. Let's understand that there is a retirement crisis in this country, and it has nothing necessarily to do with COVID-19. People have struggled to retire since the early 80s, Dame, since one major retirement mechanism began to switch over to another major retirement mechanism. Do you want to read the folks in on this?
Yeah, sure. Once upon a time, pensions funded the retirement of the vast majority of Americans. And pensions, if you are just getting caught up or don't even know because you've never been able to participate in one, basically the day you retire, you keep getting paid. That's a beautiful thing. You'd say, I'm not going to work here anymore. They say, great, we'll send you a check to your address. Keep on doing life. A very low chance for you to really hurt yourself financially because you have a constant stream of income on top of Social Security and things are likely to look really, really good for you. However, pensions are expensive to run and maintain. Employers figured that out and said, you know what? We're going to shift some of this risk to the employee. We're going to match some of their contributions, and we're going to let the market take care of the magic for them. And so that's where we get the 401k, 403b, 457 plans, where they are participant-driven, participant-guided retirement plans. You make the contributions, you choose the investments, get a little bit of match maybe from your employer, and when you get ready to retire, well, however you did was how you did. You don't have any guarantees necessarily going forward into retirement.
And why this is interesting is because this is what really began to create nest eggs, this concept of I have a big chunk of money that I control and distribute at my whims. However, Dame, because these pensions were going away and these defined contribution plans replaced them, what ended up happening was people then also had to create a stream of income off these nest eggs. And so this article on CNBC.com this week suggests that a JP Morgan Asset Management and Employee Benefit Research Institute study say some 80% of the retiree studies didn't withdraw money from accounts before the required minimum distributions, known as RMDs. And that's shocking to me, because if we're in a retirement crisis, that suggests whatever a person's nest egg is, theoretically, would have to supplement their Social Security income starting at age 62. And so I don't buy it, because in practice, having done this for a very long time, and while I don't watch people retire today like I used to when I was a wealth manager, people tapped their assets much sooner than their RMDs, in my experience.
Yeah, way earlier than RMDs. RMD age, by the way, probably during the time of this study, I'm going to guess, was 70 and a half. That's recently been changed to 72. And actually, there's some push in DC to actually get that pushed to 75. So hasn't happened yet. 72 is the law of the land. But 70 and a half, if you figure most people are going to retire 65-ish, give or take a year or so, to be able to make it 5 years on Social Security and maybe whatever other cash you've got laying around, or other pension money is still a chance, especially if you're in education. Pension might be in there, or part-time work. It's really tough for me to understand that 80% of retirees were able to make that work between the time they retire and the time they needed to tap into were forced to tap into their retirement accounts.
Can you put on your Pete is generally wrong hat for a second here while I give you some ideas?
Yeah.
So the Social Security Act from back in the day, 1933, I think, was brought around to provide a safety net in a person's retirement years. I mean, the term safety net is part of the deal here. So that is to say, if you aren't able to support yourself in retirement based on your own pension and or nest egg, then the Social Security retirement benefit you receive on a monthly basis will do that. Well, that didn't really become the safety net. It became people's sort of base level income. And I guess you could split hairs as just safety net and a base level income, the same thing. But people built their foundation on Social Security. And so then they began to supplement that. So here's the assertion I want to make that sounds really out of touch and arguably condescending. I have come to the conclusion, in my experience, that, okay, I have to pump the brakes here, because this is on the verge of just being disastrous, what I'm about to say. In many instances, you're better off living at a lifestyle prior to retirement that is in accordance with that Social Security benefit than you would be for someone making a lot more than Social Security and then trying to retire with Social Security and then the supplemental income you get from your assets. In other words, let's strip away all of the hedged language there. You're better off making $50,000, $60,000 a year heading into retirement than you are making $110,000 a year retirement if you've not saved properly for retirement, because your lifestyle is so much higher that it's going to be harder for you to supplement the lifestyle you're used to between your income and your Social Security income. Dame, am I going to get letters?
Probably, but unfortunately, reality says that you're probably more right than wrong. If you have very limited resources looking at you for retirement, you better get used to living on less dollars, or figure out a way to extend your working career, whether it's part-time or full-time, because that's just math at that point. Your expenses may outstrip your income income resources, or at least what they can support on a month-to-month basis, and put you in a really, really uncomfortable position in pretty short order. So if you are relying on Social Security to provide the majority of your income and retirement, you better make sure that your expenses are getting close to lining up with what that Social Security benefit is projected to be before you get to retirement, or you're going to have a really nasty crash course in what life's going to look like.
Albeit this is condescending, I am willing to say here that this is one of my favorite elements of money, is that a person who makes significantly less income over the course of their career can have a much more sustainable, reasonable retirement if that income more closely mirrors their Social Security benefit than someone who makes significantly more because of the lifestyle that second person chose to live during retirement. And not that there's this great equalizer or it's a contest, but I like the idea that someone making $60,000 through their entire career can actually have a more sustainable, safer retirement than a physician that spent years making hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is again a weird thing to say because what is being proven to whom, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting ways on how Social Security is set up to benefit people who don't make as much as others, and it's not a horrible approach.
Let's take a break. Coming up after the break, we're talking about why Americans are spending more in 2021. You know that, but now the data supports it. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the show. Look at you watching the clock so I don't get burned on the way out. I gave you not much time, and you're a professional because you're a radio star now, as everyone knows.
Trying to help my brother from another mother.
That's true.
And
okay. Oh, can I do a show review? I've started the show Manifest on Netflix. It's the show about these people that took a flight and then they landed. And when they landed, it was actually 5.5 years later.
That's a network show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like on ABC or NBC. Yep. No one knows. And I was like, I'm bored. I need like a show to like wind down at night, like when Mrs. Planner's not available to watch our stories. And so I started watching it. The concept's really interesting. You leave the Bahamas or Bermuda or something like that. Interesting concept. You land and it's 5.5 years later. Everyone else has moved on, but you haven't aged and no one knows why this happened. That's the concept of the show. So interesting. But now I'm sucked into the show and it's real stupid. Like I can't get out of the show, but because now I got to know what happens, but it's just getting dumber and dumber. So that's my review of Manifest.
Just Google it. See if they ever told you exactly what it is and move on. Have you, please tell me that one of the shows you and Mrs. Planner are watching is Ted Lasso.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, if the new episode comes out today, we're ready to go. Like it is.
You and I hadn't discussed it since the new season started. And every time I sit down to watch the next episode, I'm like, oh, Pete and I haven't talked about this yet. I hope he's watching. And so,
that's great. Yeah. It's just fantastic. It's such a great show. All right. You ready for Americans spending more money?
Yes. Americans spend more money.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Dame, I don't know if you know this, but Americans are spending more money. That is according to a recent report by Mass Mutual Consumer Spending and Saving Index. Before we get going on this, I mean, yeah, this one passes the sniff test. You and I in the last segment weren't buying that last study, but I am buying this study. And if no other reason, because of stimulus dollars, right?
Totally. And people have, well, I mean, for a few reasons. They didn't spend anything in 2020, or at least it was restricted. Then they got a lot of money through stimulus checks, mud burning holes in their pocket, got to go spend it on something. And the world opens back up, and they're walking around like they've got it just falling out of their pockets.
Yeah, I mean, an average family of 4 right now, young kids that qualifies for the advanced child tax credit, is getting somewhere between $500 to $600 a month from July 15th through December 15th of this year. So that alone accounts for a big portion of the, on average, $765 more a month Americans are spending between dining out and taking trips. This passes the sniff test, but I don't have a beef with this, but I think here's the context. Number one, April of 2020, no one's spending anything other than like black market toilet paper.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't and you were scared and it just seemed prudent to not spend money. So the fact that spending has increased over last year's spending, I think people are just getting back to their regular spending levels plus a little bit from stimulus, no?
Yeah, I think that's the problem that we see with so many of these headlines that are saying, oh, people are spending more or saving less or whatever it is than they were last year. Well, yeah, let's think about the events that we all went through in 2020. A lot of these things are just reversion to the mean at that point. We aren't breaking new ground, or we aren't going nuts in a lot of different ways. It's just we're not all terrified sitting at home trying to figure out if we can go find disinfecting wipes at the grocery store or the hardware or Facebook Marketplace, and we're doing life like we did in 2019.
What is the most ridiculous, in retrospect, thing you did from a safety perspective? I'll give you an example of mine so you can think of yours. Early in the pandemic. Early in the pandemic, when I would go to like the local CVS to grab sundries, I think at one point I taped my pant leg, closed them at the ankle with a form of tape.
Really?
I don't know why I thought I was not sleeping much. I was working a lot. I may have been just not in a good place mentally, but I feel like I was going to get ET out of the closet.
I am not laughing at you. I am laughing at the image of you. Oh man.
And I was wearing, I don't think I was wearing, was I wearing goggles?
No.
I don't know. No,
No.
I don't think it was hard. But I will say this: did you have anything? You didn't have anything remotely like that.
Nothing
No.
close to that.
You're having people breathe in your mouth. You're a real toughie.
Yeah, just you're trading, germs from people around the country, seeing what we could build up in ourselves, I guess.
I will say this. So early in the pandemic, we were spending like nothing. Mrs. Planer and I noted that we probably were spending $750 less a month. I think we actually did the math on it. We were spending significantly less. And then that came back. Like I think by the fall we were spending more. I say even earlier this year we were spending more. I don't know why. It might just because we're busy or we're focused or something right now. We're spending a lot less on carry out. So I'm curious from a dining out carry out standpoint. I don't know what that means for you all, but we were always pre-pandemic generally a 2 dine out meals a week, probably a Friday and a Saturday. Where were you pre-pandemic?
Oh boy, that's really tough to pinpoint because of the events that our kids are involved in, and trying to make sure that they are not turning into angry little monsters because they're hungry all the time, and the amount of travel that we have to do that stuff. We were probably a little bit more than 2 meals per week, not necessarily for Cassie and I, but just to make sure that there were some calories going in those mouths. So 3, probably closer to 3 for the kids.
Yeah, we could trend that way. I would say this, though. Once the pandemic happened, we went to 0 for a long time. And what became interesting is that we learned how to make pretty reasonable meals pretty quick. We learned food prep became a skill and a necessity. So even now, like last night, we thought we were going to get carry out. Well, soccer practice got canceled. And I was like, well, I'll just make something now. And so where previously we had made the decision we were getting carry out, now we just were like, well, now we have the time and we'll just cook. And so I think I'm curious with this study that people are spending $765 more a month on travel and dining. I wonder, would it be higher if people didn't have those new sort of preparation skills from food from a standpoint? I don't know. Do you feel like you've evolved that way too?
I think you might be, I don't want to say the exception because I think there's a lot of people in your boat, but maybe in the minority on that, because I think you enjoy cooking anyway.
I love it. Yeah.
And you found out that it's really not as much of a burden as maybe you thought it was 2 years ago with prep and you get the family to chip in and all that other stuff. So now it becomes a welcome part of your life for some family time as well. I think a lot of people are still just as crunched as ever with the need for convenience and time management, and they see an easy out in having somebody else make their food for them. So I wouldn't anticipate a lot of people to necessarily feel the same way you do, but man, I wish I did feel more like you do.
I will say that the travel component of this study, I 100% buy because of how expensive it is to travel right now. Our family trip to California this summer was friggin' expensive. It was, thank God for airline miles. It was really, really expensive. And we're going on a long weekend over Labor Day and it's going to be super expensive. I think a lot of this $765 a month is just extrapolated out of people's travel budget. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I think that's real reasonable. I mean, travel is ridiculous. I mean, for a while you couldn't even find cars when you get to an airport. It was nuts. So a lot of this chunk's going towards travel, and if you got to eat while you're on vacation too, chances are you're not making food while you're in your hotel room. So you're going to go out and do all that too. So there may be some overlap in these categories as well.
Of course, we stream every week on Facebook Live Friday at noon. Restaurateur Neil Brown notes right now. I find a lot of people felt like they had to cook more during the pandemic, and they are getting that time back now by eating out more. Yeah, I bet that is actually the more common sentiment. And Zonda notes also that prices in restaurants are going up. That I have noticed. That I've absolutely noticed restaurants are a lot more expensive. And I don't say that judgmentally. I say that observationally. They are absolutely going up. It goes almost back to our tipping conversation from last week, Dan.
Yeah, it's just a fact of the world that we're living in. The costs are going up on all fronts for restaurant owners, and they've got to provide for their own families, make sure they're running a profitable business. So those costs are going to get passed on to the customers in some way, shape, or form.
All right, Dame, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, 74% of colleges are facing financial challenges, according to a new survey of higher ed professionals. This would be a remarkable story if it was 20% of colleges are having an issue. Dame, 74% of colleges are struggling financially. So we're going to talk about why, what's going to happen, and the role the enrollment cliff will play in all of this around 2025 when you see significant decline in college enrollment. All that's next. Is your alma mater going under? Is mine? I hope not. All that's next right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. When I started winding up on that early, I could see your face like, really, dude? You're going for a 50-second outro?
Well, hey, you're the pro.
Apparently I am. We got done with last week's show, Dame. I don't know if anyone else felt this way. We got off the air. And what did I say to you?
I'm sorry.
Yes. It wasn't good. I wasn't good. You were fine. But I was so tired. I had 9 live shows last week, and I was just exhausted. So
how many live shows did you have this week?
9. I'm getting used to it, though.
Oh, well, I'm sure that's it.
But I will say this. We serve hundreds and hundreds of thousands of organizations, or not organizations, people, participants through what we do. And to reach people on an individual basis used to be a lot harder than it is now. And so we've just pivoted to the point where I'm live streaming, broadcasting, doing TV shows, whatever you want to call it, all day long. And it's just such a better mechanism for helping people change their finances than anything we've ever had before. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
No, I love how we do it. And I think we've got a nice push, almost a tip of the spear with you kind of leading the charge on making sure we're in front and on the front of people's minds. Then they call my team and we can help them through whatever they're dealing with. So I think it's a really good setup.
Yeah, it is almost like I'm the cheerleader. And I mean, I'm just up there like the ringmaster, and then people come to you and get the help, your team, and it's I don't know, it's good. I don't know.
Yeah. I've got it. You are the infomercial that motivates people to call us.
Oh, let me do an infomercial.
Yes.
Let's see. What topic do we want to do here?
College.
Okay. Let me see what I can do here. Let me go full screen. Do you want a weird voice?
No.
Now, from the creators of Mock Retirement, you have.
I don't know if I bailed. I'm sorry. I don't know. This portion of the program is brought to you by Kirkland's Signature Cold Brew Coffee, 100% Colombian. So Dame, Oz got these for me at the office, and they are like nitro fuel. I can't have one past 11 a.m. because if I do, I can't sleep. Really? But if I have one of these within 20 minutes of a live stream, I don't even need the internet. Like that's how I think I've never had illicit drugs. This is not surprising when looking at me. I've had a lot of sandwiches. That is obvious. I believe this is just canned cocaine. I'm not sure.
Did they just take some Four Loko and put it in a different can, and that's what you're at right now?
I don't know. I highly recommend Kirkland Signature Cold Brew Coffee, 100% Colombian. There's just like this really provocative jaguar face on the can. Can you see it?
Barely.
All right, so I'm gonna see if I can do this for the. This is where the podcast people are always like, "Can you just do the show again?" But you know what? Look, sometimes you get rewarded for being here with us. So let me do this. Oh, people are gonna see the big blemish on my face too.
Can you make sure Oz cuts this segment and sends it to Kirkland's or Costco for some sponsorship? Please?
Look at that. That jaguar. Can you see it?
Oh, green eyes.
I'm going to go a little inappropriate here. It's kind of sexual. You know what I mean? He's sort of looking at you like he's trying to seduce you. Any thoughts about that?
It's staring deep into my eyes. It's hard to look away. Is it like one of those paintings where the eyes just follow you all over the room?
It kind of looks like it. Oh man, this is delicious though. But I can only have one. It's still got less coffee or caffeine than a Starbucks venti. So all the people who are listening on the podcast right now, I'm sorry. Do you remember when we were still trying to figure out like how we're going to do the flow of this? And the first couple shows, it became the show behind the show, and then people were commenting on iTunes like, "Go back to the old format." I don't care. I like this. I like this.
I can't believe you read comments.
I don't know. I have all sorts of weird thoughts these days. I got to catch up with our good buddy, friend of the show, and he's going to be on the show here soon, Phil Schumann, the Executive Director of Financial Wellness at Indiana University. Dave, you and I had to actually catch up about that conversation. Phil's a genius, and I have to tell you about what they've done. So
looking forward to it. And I just want to give you a heads up. It has started raining here, and I heard a rumble of thunder. I have no idea what's going to be picked up by my microphone if there is a legit thunderstorm.
Sounds like someone had chili last night. They're just trying to make excuses.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know what that means. Okay, in 3, 2. Oh, I gotta hold on, everybody. I gotta start the clock.
And you know exactly what that means.
I know exactly what that means. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Dame, colleges, we're always going to be in trouble by around 2025 because of birth rates in our country. Round about the Great Recession. Is that the one I'm thinking about? Yeah, Great Recession. People stopped having children. And so that means that there were less 18-year-olds 18 years later to go to college, which means enrollment in these universities who've spent a tremendous amount of money on physical buildings and infrastructure and all sorts of other things. We're going to be in trouble unless they made some serious changes. Well, throw in a pandemic, throw in other issues that way, and now you have 74% of universities, colleges and universities, under major financial constraints, to the point of some of these places may actually go out of business. Isn't that shocking to think like huge storied institutions can go out of business?
We've seen a lot is an exaggeration, but we've seen a number of smaller institutions already go that way. They've closed up and said, we don't have the enrollment numbers and we don't have the cash flow to try and make this happen on a year in, year out basis. So go find your education elsewhere and we'll transfer your credits on your behalf. But it was going to, or at least it's been presumed that it was going to start finding its way into bigger institutions, more mainstream institutions that people have some name recognition with. And we are knocking on that door. And then as you said, with the inclusion of the challenges the pandemic has thrown at it, this may be a bigger event than originally anticipated.
Here's why I bring this up, because for years, many parents have said something along the line of this idea. It is, college is going to have to get less expensive because of all the alternatives and the efficiencies created by technology. It's just going to have to, because it can't continue to increase at this pace. And so compare that to the idea that there's going to be less revenue coming into these institutions because of less enrollment, yet they have increasing expenses to deal with. Those two concepts don't line up. In fact, according to Citizens' annual student lending survey, 56% of college students and their parents expect their costs, including tuition, room and board, meal plans, travel, and activities, to increase this year by $8,700 on average. Dame, this is how this shakes out. College isn't about to get cheaper because of efficiency and virtual learning. It's about to get more expensive because there's fewer students to pay the salaries of all the faculty and staff.
Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge. The colleges have expanded their offerings and their staff. A lot of extra administration, or what people feel as extra administration type positions, as well as providing amenities to attract students to their campuses. And that's all going to change. It's changing already. And if the money is not there, well, they've still got fixed costs they got to cover. And that means that cost is going to go up. Sticker shock is going to go up, and families are going to be tasked with really, really tough decisions. Do they take out more loans? Do they choose different institutions? Do they go a trade route instead of college altogether? It's going to be a very interesting decade that we're facing.
Yeah, you know what's weird? I'm wrong a lot. That's actually not weird. You know that. You've known me for a while now. I'm wrong a lot. And my assertion was college is just going to get cheaper and cheaper because of efficiencies. But I think there's some additional elements that I just didn't take into account. I didn't take into account there'd be a global pandemic in which international students and out-of-state students for public institutions would not attend at the same rate they were prior to the pandemic. And that's a big problem. International students pay a tremendous amount more to a university, as do out-of-state students. And colleges are seeing the impact of that. So here's what I think is going to happen. This is prediction time. All right, mark the date. What day today is, as we record this here, what is today? No one knows.
20-something.
7th. All right, 27th of August, 2021. Put it in the time capsule. The rise of community college will continue. I believe, like in the Great Recession, community colleges will dominate the higher ed landscape as people look for alternative, cost-sensitive ways to get that big degree. What are your thoughts?
I hope they're taken more seriously, for sure, because they are a very cost-effective way to get some of those gen ed credits out of the way, where the differences in level of instruction aren't going to be all that great between a four-year institution and a community college. Sometimes, in some cases, the same instructors are teaching. They just walk across the street to teach the class in a different building. So it's a fantastic way to minimize your overall college expense bill as a parent who's trying to figure out how to make this all work. So if you have this opportunity available to you to look at a community college for whatever education program your child wants to do, look into it. You could save significant amounts of money, significant amounts.
You know, you and I talk about this a lot professionally. I was going to say we talk about it personally too, but that makes us seem like real dull people. Parents, when it comes to college decisions, oftentimes they go the wrong route. They go the, hey, we'll make it work route, which is oddly enough about the worst thing you can do other than like rock climbing without a rope. It's the worst time you can say, hey, we'll figure it out, is college planning for a kid, because you can create this escalation of commitment where the student, it does work for 2 years to 2.5 years or 7 semesters, 5 semesters. And then you're trapped. You have to borrow and borrow and borrow. The parent has to borrow to have that child finish the degree. And we see more and more of it. Now, I will say, changing topics within the topic, this is such an issue that colleges are struggling financially that even one of the biggest endowments in all of the land, Stanford University, let workers go here recently because of the pandemic. Now, you could argue that this was a overly shrewd maneuver to save money within the endowment. But you could also say if they're struggling that bad that they have to let people go, aren't all schools going to struggle? Although I'm going to disagree with myself and said it might have been overly shrewd.
Well, a lot of endowments have a big portion of their assets tied up to very specific uses. So to say that, well, they've got a $2 billion endowment, how can't they make this work? Well, if 80% or 90% of that has to be used for identified purposes and not for the general use of the institution itself, it's really not all that helpful. So you have to always take that endowment number with a grain of salt. You don't know how much is actually available to the institution for operating expenses, for example. So yes, you would think that there are some schools that are definitely going to have to start sharpening the pencil, and maybe you don't offer 150 different degrees and you got to trim that down a little bit, but they're going to have to figure out a way to cut expenses because they can't keep raising the prices and expect people to keep going.
Did I tell you that, of course, with Phil Schumann at Indiana University, we had a partnership with, it's called Money Smarts, and we help educate college students through their universities. One of the schools that uses those services is a school that my nephew matriculated to last week as a freshman. And he doesn't know, but he's going to be required to watch his uncle teach him about money. And I cannot wait for the text message of just absolute face palming from both he and my sister. I think it's going to be great.
Are you going to give him pop quizzes to see if he was paying attention?
Yeah. Everyone wants to be the cool uncle, but I'm pretty sure his other uncle, like his dad's brother, is the cool uncle, and his dad's sister's husband, I think they're the cool uncle.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not the cool uncle. That's the thing.
No.
It's too bad. All right, Dame, let's do this. Coming up after the break, biggest waste of money of the week. I'm feeling pretty good about the waste of money this week. I like a really soft, comfortable t-shirt, but I'm not sure it's worth this cost, especially given what they're saying the value is in buying it. I will share that with you next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. My wind-ups are long today.
It's all right.
I don't know. I'm definitely not the cool uncle. I wish I was. I should text him and ask him if I'm the cool uncle.
Do you really want the answer to that question?
No. That's real passive aggressive anyway.
Yeah.
You have any nieces or nephews?
Yeah, 2.
Are you a cool uncle?
I am the only uncle. No, that's not true. That's not true. I've
So
got
you're-
by the other side of the family.
If you're the only uncle, that would also make you the creepy uncle.
It's true. Well, I mean, I can wear both those shoes. I've got 2 feet.
Can you imagine you're at school, your freshman year, you're away from home, you're like, I got some distance from my family. You log on your computer to take the financial wellness course, and your doofus uncle is doing it.
What's better is your friends are going to be like, "Did you see that guy on the financial wellness?" And you're like, "Yeah, what a weirdo."
And I've been on video a lot in the last 10 years or so. It's basically the barbershop haircuts poster for me, from like bad haircuts to worse to no hair and beards and no beards. I believe, I don't remember actually, but I remember when we shot those videos, I think I was a bearded haired man, and now I have neither.
I think you were too. That was like right before me, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Was it?
Well, I mean, there were some that were done
Yeah.
At the beginning of my tenure, but I think there was an entire season-ish, whatever you want to call it, done before my arrival.
All right, let's do this. I'll remove that. Are you ready to do? I almost hit a button that may have closed the whole show just now, and I didn't, thank God.
I am going through my stories because we just talked about 2 of them, so I'm trying to figure out what my news stories are going to be.
Sorry.
So
Hello, Brian Pinkins joins the show. Hello, Brian Pinkins. Is it weird to say I saw a picture of him the other day? Just like someone joins in, like, oh, I saw a picture of you the other day. Is that a creepy thing to say to someone?
it could be.
I think it's creepier if I were to say it to a woman. Like, let's say, oh, Madeline Jenkins, hey, I saw a picture of you the other day. Yeah, that would be creepy, right?
I mean, some people might find it, but maybe you've known Madeline for years.
It just sounds creepy.
Decades. Yeah.
I certainly don't try to be creepy. I don't believe to be a creepy person, but I think you get to a certain age as a guy in your 40s, I'm not cool anymore. I have a tween daughter. Like, I think I inadvertently say creepy things, and it's not because I'm a creep, but just because I've become more awkward. You feel like you're becoming more awkward. Your daughter's almost not old enough for you to be awkward yet.
Yeah, nobody told us about this phase of our life where everybody tells you about the awkwardness in your teens.
Yeah.
Nobody told us about the awkwardness in your 40s.
That is so true. I'm stealing that. Are you ready? Or do you need more time or not?
No, I'll figure it out.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is the Volback Black Algae t-shirt. Algae is the new black. At least at Volback's Black Algae t-shirt, the single-celled organism is being used to create a sustainable algae-based ink. Instead of using traditional black dyes made with fossil fuels, this shirt gets its slate hue from black algae ink. Developed with biomaterials company Living Ink, the non-toxic pigment is made using carbon dioxide absorbing algae harvested from giant open air pods. The ink is then printed on an eco-friendly fabric crafted from responsibly harvested eucalyptus beech and spruce, where it continues to lock in the carbon dioxide emissions for the next 100 years. After printing the shirt, it is pre-washed with a softener made from mangoes to give it a lived-in feel, while the UV-resistant ink will continue to look as fresh as the day it was purchased for years to come. Now, Dame, here's the thing. I'm not anti-environment. I believe in climate change. I want to do everything I can. I don't want to own this t-shirt, though. It just seems like a little much. It's like telling the people at Starbucks what temperature you want the drink served at. You know what I mean?
I appreciate a nice, comfortable t-shirt.
Yes.
This sounds like this t-shirt got a nice spa treatment before it got sent out to find its new owner with eucalyptus and mango and who knows what other stuff is going on there. I mean, this has to be a $250 t-shirt.
It's a pretty good guess. It's $110, but I don't want a t-shirt. I don't want to wear a t-shirt that is more important than I am. And I'm not saying I'm an important person, but this t-shirt has a history. It has like a legacy, and I don't need that sort of pressure. I just want to wear like a Hope Plumbing t-shirt that my friend Jack gave me and just wear it around. That's all I want.
It does look incredibly comfortable, though.
It does look really comfortable. You can tell by the way the wrinkles are in the shirt that those wrinkles just go over my fat folds in such a nice way. Dame, what's in the news this week?
I'm still thinking about seeing if you and I could just go together on one t-shirt and we could share custody of it.
Would you share a t-shirt with me? I mean, that seems a little weird, because what if you use a different detergent than we use, and then I smell you when I wear you? Like I don't want to do that.
The Supreme Court put an end to the moratorium that protected renters from being evicted during the pandemic yesterday. That'd be Thursday, for those of you listening on the radio. In a 6-3 decision last night, the court said that the CDC, which imposed the moratorium, didn't actually have the legal authority to do that. In practice, that means hundreds of thousands of people in the United States could potentially be evicted from their homes now that the protections have been tossed.
We've been talking about this for a very long time, and we have been making the assertion that this is one of the scarier things that's going to happen in the midst of the recovery, is when the reckoning comes. And I say that respectfully. I don't mean people are due a reckoning. I really don't mean that. I am curious, though, at this point, with people not paying rent and landlords being stuck with the problem and landlords being vilified like they've done something wrong, I wonder if the moratorium ending is the solution we need. And I say that with kid gloves. I feel like this is going to bring us a new level.
It's going to have, I feel like, some impact that was not necessarily foreseen by everyone. There's going to be some surprises, I think, that come out of this. However, if you find yourself in a position or know of somebody who is in a position where they are probably going to be evicted based on what's going on in their lives, there is assistance out there. Have that individual call 211 and see if they can find either the state or the local program for rent assistance, because there is a ton of it out there. In fact, I have a story about it. Would you like to hear it, Pete?
I do want to hear it, but one, that's awesome that you just gave that number. Two, when you started to give that number, I thought it was going to be a full length number, and my head was going to spin. But someone dials 211, like a 911, but they're dialing 211. What is that to? Is it to rental assistance?
No, it's typically to a phone number that's staffed and run by a local or regional United Way that can connect you with all sorts of different programs for whatever challenge you might be facing at that point in time. However, the government has used them and the 211 number to try and get people connected with the rental assistance programs in their area. Now, in Indiana, for example, a lot of the major metropolitan areas have their own programs that are going on. So if you live in Hamilton County or in the Fort Wayne area or things of that nature, you're going to have a different program. You could still call 211 and get directed in the right place, but people who live in some of the more rural counties will have a different program to go through.
Yeah, I read an article, I think it's the one you're going to right now, is that a vast majority of the funds set aside with rental assistance have gone completely unclaimed.
Indeed. Only 11% of the tens of billions of dollars in federal rental assistance have been distributed at this point.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, it probably says in the article, but what's your best guess? Is it just not connecting the program with the user?
Yeah, I honestly think that's a lot of it. It's been some administrative issues going on from the individual states, because these are programs that the states were required to implement on their own. So you've got some administrative issues going on with potential red tape and in the individual state themselves. And then you've got marketing this out to the individuals who need the assistance. Even if you set up the best program to get this money out dispersed as quickly as possible, if you can't get that message in front of people, or criminy, I would have pushed it to landlords too and their organizations to try and let them pass that on to their renters. It's going to fail. If you have no customers, it's going to fail. Doesn't matter what type of program or business you're running. So there's been a monumental screw up along the way, and it's going to be somewhat difficult to pin the tail on the donkey on this, but it was not executed well at all.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like the whole eviction moratorium pitted landlords versus tenants in just an unnecessary way, because we empathetically said, hey, we get it. You're not going to be evicted. Okay, I'm down. I agree. 100%. I'm in. But why did that get put on the landlords to stomach that? It's like this funding, which has gone untapped, 89% of it that has gone untapped, is driving the wedge deeper between the landlords and the tenants when it actually would be the solution to them. And that's frustrating. Like, I know a lot of things have gone well in a reactive way in the last 18 or 19 months. We, as a country, have done good things. We have done some less than ideal things. This one sort of stinks, man. I feel like we had the idea to set the money aside, but then the execution on this has just been terrible from day one.
Yeah, the funding was not the issue on this. Well, I mean, we'll never know. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't enough money, but we'll never know, because it just never connected. And it's a shame, because it could have prevented a lot of heartache and a lot of hand-wringing for individuals and landlords alike.
You know, I will say this. Think about this. What if it now increases, now that the eviction moratorium is ending, that people actually tap it? Maybe it was the eviction moratorium that sort of gave this this idea that, well, I can't get kicked out anyway, so I'm not going to go look for assistance. Wonder if this is what changes. I'm trying to think. There's a term I can't think of that's not helpful for doing a radio show. Anyway, it made it so renters wouldn't go seek out this program because they couldn't get kicked out, and maybe this is what changes it. I don't know.
Could be.
I hate when I can't think of a really witty term and then it just doesn't come out, and then meanwhile, like Dead air. That's a good time, broadcasters. What else, Dame? We have no more time.
No.
That's it. That's all there is. Dame, I hope you have a wonderful Labor Day. I believe that is next weekend.
Yes.
All right. For everyone else, I also hope you enjoy your Labor Day by not working, because that's how Labor Day works, I think. All right. Hey, sending good vibes, because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner, and this was the Pete the Planner Financial Radio Show. What is the term I'm thinking of? Moral hazard.
Oh, yeah.
Moral hazard.
You can just go back in and edit the last 30 seconds or so of the show.
Dame, I'm going to end the show because this thing is sending me out the other way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to sincere message in the show. I'm going to go my screen only, Dame. Okay. I'm going to kill the banner. The podcast is going to love this.
Can you change the lights?
Oh, yeah. Let's change the lights. Going to change the voice.
Listen, I want you to know how much I love you. I care for you. I'm thinking about you at appropriate times, not inappropriate times. I'm thinking about you at appropriate times. I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, stay getting money.